right, here we go. Big weekend has come and gone. We welcome you to Dialed In. I'm Thom Brennaman. Now, coming up on the show today, we'll be joined by Charlie Goldsmith from Cincinnati.com, who's covering the Reds out in Goodyear, Arizona. A lot happening out there. Now, we come your way, a reminder, twice a week. Mondays, we're live on Chatterbox Sports at 9:15 a.m., and later we post on the Believe Network. Fridays, both on Believe and Chatterbox Sports. We're on Chatterbox at noon following Off the Bench. You can join us on YouTube, the Chatterbox Sports page. You can download us anywhere, anytime. Just search Dialed In with Thom Brennaman, and you're dialed in. Friday, we have our big interview. Week 1 was Chip Carey from the St. Louis Cardinals. Last week, Chris Myers from Fox Sports, and then Barry Rosner from Chicago. So lots to get to, and we'll do that shortly. But joining us first from out in Goodyear, Arizona, as promised, from Cincinnati.com, is our good friend Charlie Goldsmith. Charlie, beautiful morning out there, it looks like in Arizona. No surprise, but I'll have you know, it's almost as nice here today as it is there.
I'm sure the fans will be very disappointed when they do the game where they show the weather in Cincinnati and compare it to the weather in Goodyear today.
Yeah, they do that every day still, right?
Yep, of course.
Yeah, of course they do. Well, it's a beautiful sunny day out in the Valley of the Sun. All right, I want to talk about the game yesterday. The Reds lose to Kansas City. In fact, they were swept over the weekend. They're 4-4 overall in Cactus League play. That's not necessarily a big deal, but Frankie Montas is a big deal. He only pitched in one game last year, coming back after really a couple of years, battering an injured shoulder. And he gives up 4 runs, 7 hits, and 2 2/3. Any reaction to that one way or the other?
Yeah, kind of both sides of it. One, David Bell talking about a little fatigue setting in the third inning. That's normal, especially for a pitcher who really didn't have a 2023 season. I thought the most interesting perspective was that, like I talked to Montas about this after the game, when he's struggling, the consistency and the command of his fastball, that's the thing to watch for. That's something I always try to take a lot out of spring training. When it's not looking good, why? So now that fastball is really on my radar as something to really pay closer attention to going forward.
You know, that's always interesting, and I always found it interesting when I was up in the booth because not everybody's sign of success or struggles is the same. For Montas, you just said it, locating the fastball. For some other guys, Hunter Green, is he throwing the breaking ball? Is he able to mix in the changeup? I just think it's very interesting. That's what makes baseball, I think, unique to other sports, is that when it comes to the guy on the mound who has the ball every single play of the game, there are different triggers for how well they're going to do.
100%. And, there are some pitchers who it's all completely mental. And you can kind of just see from their mound presence and their personality overall pitch to pitch what kind of day it's going to be like for them. So, overall, that's kind of what you try to take from these spring training games. I don't read too much into the results. I do read into all right, when it's looking good, here's why. When it's looking bad, here's why. Kind of set me up for the regular season so I really know how to evaluate and address these pitchers in games that matter.
Well, that's great stuff. Okay, now, it's starting to look more and more. You correct me if I'm wrong. I find it hard to believe, having not pitched in a game yet and knowing you got to build up, and maybe I'm totally wrong. I find it hard to believe Lodolo is ready for the rotation at the start of the season. Are you buying that or no?
So you've been doing this much longer than I have. Me personally, I've never seen a pitcher keep getting reevaluated while also still pitching. So I've never seen another example of this. I'd be very interested to see if you would. Usually when you go to see the specialist, you're down for a couple days at least. Maybe you're down for a couple months. But Lodolo gets checked up, throws the nastiest live bullpen of the spring, gets checked up again, throws a bullpen yesterday and is now getting checked up again. I'm not 100% sure what to
Yeah.
make of it. What they're saying is he might be ready to get you 75 to 90 pitches if everything checks out and goes perfectly going forward. He's already thrown 2 live BPs, which basically are innings, so he's basically already pitched in 2 one-inning spring training games, which obviously isn't quite as far of a progression as the other starting pitchers, but is still something and is still notable. They're just in the information gathering mode, and March 4th isn't a great day to be in information gathering mode, but kind of a perplexing, unique situation that we've been monitoring.
Okay, now we've talked so much about how the Reds have far more depth theoretically in their starting rotation that they've ever had. So let's just theoretically take Lodolo out for a minute. And you got Abbott, Ashcraft, Green, Montas. There are a lot of other guys there that would be fighting for that 5th spot if indeed it is open. Who would be, you think, the front runner for that? I thought Williamson pitched well last season once he got his legs underneath him. But is he the guy or somebody else, you think?
Yeah, I think you're down to Williamson and Nick Martinez. Williamson had a tough spring training outing the other day. Nick Martinez looked phenomenal. He has mostly faced like kind of the second wave of subs that enters the game. I really think Martinez could be a starter. I think he could be an effective number 5 starter. I think they're a lot more excited about him and his potential as a high-leverage multi-inning reliever. And Brandon Williamson, when you look at, I think it was a 3.79 ERA for his last 15 starts, he kind of evolved into a different pitcher who really spots his cutter for strikes, who has a big toolbox of 5 pitches, and then gets swings and misses with the changeup. So I think there's a lot to like. Teams need Brandon Williamson type guys. Like that's kind of the bar and the standard for most number 5 starters in baseball. And he's still a young guy with potential as well. So I give a leg up to Williamson, but Martinez is right there. Then you got Phillips, Richardson, kind of as a outside looking in. I wouldn't project him in right now, but they'll continue to get looks.
Okay, a couple of injury updates. How far away are we, do you think, from Matt McClain?
Matt McClain is scheduled for a live BP on Wednesday, and after that, David Bell said that could go pretty fast from there because, again, like the thing is swinging with him, and if he's swinging against pitchers, all right, let's get this going in the game. So it seems to be going really well with Matt McClain.
Okay, and how about Marte? I mean, he injures his hamstring down in winter ball this year. How's he coming along?
Yep, he's back in games, and David Bell said going forward, there's not going to be even much of a difference between what his in-game schedule will look like and what the guys who have been going all along will. I think he's playing again today. He's just fine. There's no doubt with him for opening day at all.
Okay, now you're always a guy who likes to look ahead. For this upcoming week, what are a couple of things for fans to maybe keep an eye on for this upcoming week in Arizona?
The thing I have my biggest eye on is defense. I think defense, we've spent so much time talking about how are they going to make these lineups every day with all these options they have. The sense I get is that defense will be a huge tiebreaker. For example, I've been told that Will Benson is one of the most improved defensive players in camp. That's going to be the difference to be if he plays 6 out of 10 days or 9 or 10 out of 10 days. How does Spencer Steer continue to improve and evolve in the outfield? He'll also continue to play some second base, as well as the Reds kind of continue to really rely on his versatility. Where's Tyler Stevenson at from a defense, from a pitch calling perspective with these pitchers? Like guys like that whose roles and overall, statuses on the team are up in the air, who need to take the biggest leaps defensively. Jonathan India, number 1, when he gets back into games. I believe that'll be early next week. Guys, you really want to see where they're at on the defensive side of the ball.
All right. Charlie, we, as always, appreciate you joining us bright and early out there, a little after 7 o'clock in Arizona, and that will become 6 o'clock in the morning after this weekend. I don't know if I can ask you to do that or not. So thank you so much for your time today, my friend. Have a great day.
Have a good day.
All right, you too. Yeah, that's right. And don't forget, it's daylight savings time. I read a fascinating article the other day about what would happen if we didn't have daylight savings time anymore. It just doesn't make any sense anymore. For people who don't remember, daylight savings time started in the 70s when we had the energy crisis in this country. Of course, thanks to our good friend Joe Biden, we have an energy crisis in this country again. But that's neither here nor there. But that's the reason it started. And there are sound arguments to not having it anymore. And Arizona is the only entire state, because I think Indiana is actually split, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. Do you know that, Casey McAllister? I think half of Indiana goes into Central, once the summer months come along, and the other half, believe it or not, I think that's the way it used to be in Indiana.
Yeah, it's something very close to that. I do know that it might not be half, but it is like at least a quarter of it.
Yeah, the northern part. Yeah, up by Chicago.
Yep.
Yeah, and Arizona doesn't change at all. So they spend half the year 2 hours behind us, which they are right now, and then they spend the other half of the year technically on Pacific time. So I don't know if I can ask Charlie to keep joining us. 6:15 is 6:15, brother.
That's tough.
That's tough. All right, big weekend in sports on the local front, and as always this time of year, we begin in college basketball. UC got into the win column for the first time at home in over a month as the UC Bearcats get their 17th win overall in a 74-72 thriller over Kansas State. Seamus Lukosius hits a three with 9 seconds left in the game for the win. The Bearcats led by 16 in this game with 6 minutes to go and let it get away until the final shot. John Newman III scored 18. UC, hey, look, they still have hopes for the NCAA tournament. I know this last month has really hurt them, right? They have 2 regular season games left. Next up is a big one at Oklahoma tomorrow night. They lost to the Sooners here in a tight game earlier this year. That's an 8 o'clock tip tomorrow. And then Saturday, the regular season finale against West Virginia. That's the biggest killer loss on this UC schedule this year, is a West Virginia game when they lost in Morgantown. UC right now sits 47 on KenPom.com. Xavier, meanwhile, still clinging to postseason hopes. Hard to believe after the way they've played recently, but they have a wild one. 98-93 come from behind win at Georgetown on Saturday. But 2 very difficult games remain for Xavier before the Big East tournament. You've got Wednesday at Butler, another team trying to fight to get in, sitting right on that fence, and then hosting number 7 Marquette over the weekend. Speaking of, I watched Marquette really play a full game. Now, they did not have their best player over the weekend. But I tell you what, Creighton is a dangerous team. Creighton beat Marquette over the weekend, and again, Marquette was shorthanded. But man, Creighton, to me, when I watch them play, they have everything it takes to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. Remember now, they lost by 1 point last year of getting to the Final Four. And they are without a doubt better this year than they were last year. All right, over on the women's side, I don't know what else that I can say that hasn't been said already about Caitlin Clark from Iowa. I mean, this woman is just absolutely astounding. Over the weekend, she becomes college basketball's all-time leading scorer. That's men and women, as she surpasses legendary Pistol Pete Maravich with 3,569 points. 2 things I read over the weekend that I did not know. Maybe you know this already. Over the last 2 years, she has hit 88 shots. 88 from 25 feet and beyond. This is Steph Curry stuff here, okay? 88 shots from 25 feet and beyond. The next closest in women's basketball is 51. Furthermore, Clark is the only player ever, men and women, to lead her conference in scoring and assist 4 consecutive years. Top scorer in the Big Ten, top assist maker in the Big Ten. Simply amazing. Speaking of scoring, LeBron James becomes the first player in NBA history to eclipse 4,000 points in a career. Interesting to note that there is not a single active player in the league who has hit 30,000. Kevin Durant sits number 9 on the all-time scoring list, and he hadn't hit 30 yet. NFL news, really sad news yesterday, as Hall of Fame writer and television reporter from ESPN, Chris Mortensen, died at 72 years young over the weekend. He was revered for both his work and as a man around the National Football League for better than 50 years. Our thoughts and prayers with his so many, many, many family members and friends. Good news for Joe Burrow. Casey, he comes out over the week. First time over the weekend, we now have a timeline for the return of Joe Burrow. He is saying OTAs in May, he expects to be cleared, full contact from that surgically repaired right wrist.
That makes me happy. Mid-May. Couldn't have had any better news over this weekend, Tom. The fact that he's already been cleared to lift too. I don't know if anyone caught that, but he's already starting to lift with that wrist. So it must be pretty good, feeling healthy to be able to get back to lifting. So that's another positive to take away from this, is that he's not going to just be ready for contact. He's also going to be in shape. So
now we knew nobody's going to hit him. So that's not a fear. They're not going to get anywhere near him. There's no doubt he won't play in the preseason. At least that's been the MO for Zach Taylor, as we know. Whether that's good or bad remains to be seen. They need to get off to a better start for this upcoming season, that's for sure. NFL Combine wrapping up. I heard you guys talk about it on Off the Bench. At the end of the day, if there's one or two guys, I know we had the fastest time ever running the 40, right, from the kid from Texas.
Yep.
Apparently, J.J. McCarthy looked very good. I don't know why that would be a surprise to anybody. I think most people felt like he was in a run-first, he was in a run-first offense for national champion Michigan this year. But he seems to have made a big-time impression. You have any thoughts from a combine?
The couple thoughts that I have on the combine, offensive line was phenomenal. They're going to find someone, or they should find someone. If they really want to find a guy at 18, I think they could find a guy at 18. The receivers too, if they wanted to go that direction too. The fact that Worthy ran that 4.22, there's just so many options there at 18 as well. The kid from LSU, Brian Thompson Jr., he's 6'2", 6'3", and he runs a 4.35. I think they could find T's replacement too. At 18, I think there's lots of options available for the Bengals that I don't think people are going to be too upset about. I think this year's very, very loaded in terms of the top 32 picks in the draft.
Okay. It's going to be really interesting to see. Apparently, word on the street is the Bengals are looking hardcore at pass rushers via free agency here. So, they took a number one pick with a pass rusher last year in Miles Murphy. You don't figure that's going to be the pick at 18 this year. It's got to be offensive line. And the only way it's wide receiver is if they've made the decision to trading Higgins.
That's fair. Yeah. I think that's fair too. I think they're just delaying their inevitable departure with T, which I've gone over on Off the Bench why I think that's a bad thing. But yeah, if they don't trade T, I think it's a very unlikely move that they make. Yeah. One last thing, this is kind of breaking news. This just happened 10 minutes ago. Mike Evans would be the top wide receiver in the free agent market, but he just signed a deal, 2-year, $52 million contract with the Buccaneers.
Good.
So
I like seeing guys stay.
Yeah, no longer a option for many receiver needing teams. So,
and I got to tell you, look, he's got a huge temper. There are some people that paint him into that diva corner. I don't at all. But I will tell you one thing. If you want to read about overcoming adversity as a child, where Mike Evans is today is nothing short of a miracle from God above. Take time to go read his story sometime. If you don't know it, maybe some of you already do know it. If you don't know it, it's just unbelievable to think that this young man is where he is today. Forget the money, forget the football, forget the stardom. It's just incredible where he is today, and good for him. Soccer, your guys, FC Cincinnati got its first win of the MLS season over the weekend, 2-1 in Chicago.
That's right. They handled business like they should. This is a team that they should have, handled pretty easily. The one goal that they did give up was due to a penalty kick that I thought was very ticky-tacky. I guess you could debate whether or not it was ticky-tacky, but regardless, they handled business. Miles Robinson, as advertised, got us a goal. Yep. The center back of all players, all positions, got us a goal. Bupenza starts most of the game, gets a goal, as expected. The guy that's going to be replacing most of Vasquez's role on the team. Unfortunately, Luca Oreno, his father passed away right before the start of the game, so we were without him at the start of the game. My thoughts and prayers are out for him and his family. But still looking for that other wing. I'm still waiting for that. And I guess FC, they thought the same thing. They went out and got a guy.
Yeah, from Miami.
From Inter Miami. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
I couldn't pronounce it even if I knew it.
I wish I
read it over the weekend. I'm with you.
Yeah,
so at least they're trying.
Yeah,
we know that about FC Cincinnati. They're trying.
Yeah.
They're a team that's going to try to win. There's no doubt about that. The Linder family owns that, and they've been great owners around there in a very short amount of time. Women's softball, Oklahoma's NCAA record, 71 consecutive wins, came to an end yesterday as the Sooners were upset in extra innings by Louisiana, 7-5. Oklahoma's won 3 straight national championships. The last time they lost was in February of 2023.
They almost lost to Miami a couple days ago, actually. It was tied 7-7 at the bottom of the 7th. They just hit in 2 runs. So, yeah, it's a long time coming, I guess.
Yep, long time coming. And they'll be the odds-on favorite to win the national championship again. All right, Off the Bench is coming up at 10 o'clock. Now, it's a crazy week around here for Chatterbox Sports. We will get into all of that later today. Again, a reminder that we come your way live 9:15 here with Dialed In on Mondays, and then we'll be on noon Fridays. Justin Williams from The Athletic is going to join us this coming Friday. He's sort of evolved, he's evolved from being basically the UC beat writer for The Athletic, but now is looked at as more of the national guy. So, he's all dialed in with the NCAA tournament stuff that's coming up, especially the college football playoff. We're going to get into this whole thing because I got to tell you, there are a couple of things that I just don't get, and I'm going to have to ask him about. We were supposed to go to 12 teams this year. We are going to 12 teams this year. But apparently, the contract wasn't signed. Is that possible? That's true? I've read that in multiple outlets. So now they're talking about the committee of expanding to 14 teams, not for this year, but in 2 years from now. And they're talking about automatic buys for conferences. They're talking about 3 teams automatically every year from the Big Ten and the SEC. They run everything now. Those 2 conferences. They run everything. So I can't wait to get into this stuff with Justin Williams on Friday. So we invite you to be with us. Casey McAllister, thank you as always, young man. Great to see you.
Yes, of course.
Have fun on Off the Bench today.
Yeah.
Okay. That's coming up at 10. We thank all of you for joining us. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll look forward to seeing you again on Friday.